Hello, my name is Bob Harold, and this is my Educational Technology Vision and Theory of Action, PechaKucha. My vision starts off with constructivism, which is an educational theory, and basically constructivism, people like Confucius, Socrates, Dewey, and Montessori were all constructivists. And basically, it is the concept of the student is the constructor of their education and reflection. Also, problem-based learning, which basically is learner-centric. Teacher is a guide. It's team learning. And there's no one solution. So they're ill-conceived problems that the students address as a team. So Maastricht University is where it started in the 1960s, and the 7-jump process is the process in developing a PBL problem. Think of it as the Rubik's Cube. There's no one solution. There's no one way to get to the solution. My technology framework is infrastructure, development to use all devices, learning management systems, LMSs, and integration, and thinking about the entire campus for higher education. This also includes the users, the students, the professors, the staff, and administrators, and of course, businesses and alumni. My theory of action is three phases. First, infrastructure, tools for the future for the students, and utilizing problem-based learning PBL tools, which create 21st century learning skills and in-depth inquiry, and also deeper learning. So infrastructure, it is important that you have fiber optics infrastructure whenever possible, and also putting in dark fiber, meaning extra fiber runs wherever you can for expansion in the future. If that's not possible, point-to-point wireless is always an option for high-speed communication. Also, when designing a data center, you have to make sure you have enough room for expandability. Also, with your IDFs and MDFs, you want to make sure there's plenty of room for expansion in the future and for more servers. Also, with infrastructure, you want to make sure that you think about all the wireless needs. So Wi-Fi right now, but what's the future wireless needs? Also Bluetooth, and 5G is now on the horizon. So how will that impact, the wireless network of your university? The infrastructure also, you must consider quality of service. The system doesn't work if it goes down constantly. Network security is always a top priority. And of course, high-speed internet. Everybody demands high speed, and the faster the better. So constant upgrades must be considered. So all these infrastructure parts need to be put in place before we can consider the tools of the future. Now, the big players in education right now are obviously Microsoft, Apple, and Google, and both in hardware and in software. Now, you want to consider what you're teaching the students. If you're teaching your child how to use a knife and fork, but you live in Beijing, it doesn't make sense because they really need to use chopsticks. So think of that as we go through this. So in the last 5 years, Google has grabbed the lion's share of mobile devices to the education market. Why? Because the Google hardware platform costs $100 versus $1,000 for Microsoft or Apple tablets. So a little bit of history behind why we use Microsoft Office is because the U.S. government adopted it back in the late 80s. After that, military subcontractors, then attorneys, finally business adopted it, and then it basically took over the world. So for the last almost 50 years, it's been utilized, and it won't be changing until the government changes. So the tools of the future, you want to make sure the students are experts. They should be experts at Microsoft Office. You want to keep consistency through all their coursework, and you want to be able to utilize any platform that the students can afford. So why problem-based learning? Well, number one, it develops 21st century skills. It creates deeper learning, lifelong learners, and real life problems are solved. So they're more prepared when they go out to the job force. It's also a core part of Common Core state standards and high impact practices, which are at the university level. So it's very important that you adopt it. There's plenty of software out there to aid in problem-based learning. Custom software like CrowdSchool, AltSchool, all develop PBL, but also things like the Buck Institute have databases with tens of thousands of problems already developed with everything you need. So the plan is to first form a committee, develop the lesson plans before you ever look at software, then evaluate the different software platforms that are available, pilot the system, and eventually launch the system. You want to pilot multiple times if possible. So the theory of action logic model is the inputs you see on the left. Remember, funding and budgets are key. Vendors and business relationships, alumni and parents, unions, etc. And the outcomes are fantastic, from short-term to long-term, things like problem-solving skills, critical thinking, etc. So remember, the theory of action is infrastructure, tools for the student's future, and utilizing problem-based learning tools. Thank you so much for your time. The end.